cut, Kim Yong-kwon.
공동입니다. 공동이 역전을 만듭니다. 이천의 갈비를.
Winners of the ACL Champions League 2020, Ulsan Hyundai.
You're listening to the K League United podcast, proud partner of Football Nation Radio.
Hello, 안녕하세요. Ryan Walters in the Kim Do-hoon bunker, back at it again for a live show after what's been a chaotic schedule. It's been a chaotic schedule all year long, but as it stands, I am joined virtually by the former usual, back when we could do this usually, but I'm joined by Matthew Binns and Pete Hampshire. Gentlemen, how are we feeling tonight?
Yeah, not bad. It's a Wednesday. It's a Wednesday. That's it.
Ooh, coming in hot. Coming in. If the people are ready to watch, they are now.
For those of us that are teachers in South Korea as day jobs, I think when it gets to December, you're just ready for the end of the year, aren't you?
Yeah, fair enough. And
My
a good morning to
going
folks
downhill.
such as Mike that are watching across the world. And speaking of, we just got a good morning from the UK, or a God morning that was a typo that was just corrected as well.
What I said this morning when I saw the temperature. God, it was cold. Freezing itself.
The morning hike was a bit chilly today. But speaking of things going on in the UK, a hearty official KLU pod. Congratulations to Pete Hampshire here. We've completed the transfer. We've finally finished the negotiations after weeks and weeks. I know that you did a lot to prep for this, but I want you to think of me, Pete. I want you to think of everything that I've been put through by you leaving. But yeah, Pete is going to be leaving us very soon, actually, because you have joined ITV News for the 2022 season.
Yeah, the local in the Yorkshire region, locally up north, a year there. So thank you for the congratulations. And yeah, these weekend's games, I've been not going to many games the last few weeks for different reasons, but this weekend I'm doing a double header to fully celebrate and get back into the stadiums. Gwangju and Jeonbuk for me this weekend.
There it is. Perfect.
What was the fee in the end we took for him?
Undisclosed.
All right.
Nice.
And a player to be named later, actually. So
all right.
We'll see. There are some performance incentives. If we get Pete on big TV 3 times next year, then we might be able to get somebody to come back the other way. So get on big TV next year, Pete. And by that, I mean the normal channel. I don't know much.
There'll just be loads of stories with tenuous K League links. Here's how Hull compares to Pohang and that kind of thing.
Ooh,
yeah.
That's what the people want right there. And what a perfect transition that was. Doing my job for me. This is why you got the internship. Speaking of Pohong, we are here to put some dirt over the grave of the ACL Final. We're finally going to discuss it. It happened a little bit over a week ago, but because of scheduling and everything else, we haven't been able to get on and break down the ACL Final that saw El Hilal claim their record 4th. We can't really call it ACL, continental title. Whatever. They got their 4th before Pohang could because they won 2-0 in that match. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about another unfortunate event for POSCO, and that's their other team, the Jeonnam Dragons, losing 1-0 at home to Daegu FC in the FA Cup Final first leg. Talk about that, and it's here at last. The time for Ulsan to Ulsan. Well, that was last weekend, I guess. But the final round of K League 1 is here. The title is on the line yet again, very similar to last year, but we're going to be taking a look at both Final A and Final B and talking about what's at stake in those 2 rounds, which not much in Final B, but we'll get to that in a second. And then we do have a pretty full mailbag as it is, but as always, we always want your questions throughout the show. So if anything comes up, please get that into the comments and we will get them into the mailbag. But before we can get into anything, Matthew, there's quite a bit going on the interwebs this week.
Yeah, Paul has been busy as per usual. He's currently preparing the promotion relegation playoff. Yes, that's right. We're going to have 2 podcasts next week. One wrapping up all the action in K League 1, as well as previewing the FA Cup final, and then the other pod will be the promotion relegation playoff with Daejeon's Bruno bio. So hopefully Paul can finally get that link in the bio pun to the man himself. There's a full list of K1 award nominees on the KLeague.com right now. They are the official nominees. We will be having our own, and there will be an award show. So stay tuned for that. Daejeon Citizens FA Cup triumph as well. 20 years too late, I should say. But Paul takes a trip down memory lane. He's got lots of interviews in there to recall Daejeon's unlikely path to their first and only piece of major silverware. And that's on KLeagueUnited.com right now. I strongly suggest you read that. It's a really good read.
And they won't be getting any silverware if they get promoted to K League 1, but they are going to be hoping to do that. So all sorts of things going on for Daejeon there. But let's talk about other teams that won't be getting silverware this year, and that's the Pohong Steelers. They ended up losing in the ACL Final in Saudi Arabia to Al Hilal in front of a packed house, over 50,000 people there to watch this one, which before we get into anything specifically that happened on the field or what this means historically or anything like that, I think, especially for those of us that have been watching football here in Korea for a really long time, it was just really fantastic to see this event get the kind of spectacle that it deserves, to see that many people in the stadium, to have that kind of atmosphere, and to just have that many people behind it in person, I think was really nice to see. So props to everybody that showed up there. I wish they would have gone home sad, but they did. They went home quite happy. And Pete, on the note of that stadium, when the AFC made the decision to have this hosted in Riyadh, it wasn't guaranteed that Hilal was going to be there. It could have been their rivals Al Nassr. It could have been anybody else from the West at that time, but it ended up being Al Hilal playing in their home stadium. Do you think that was too much of an advantage going into this one? Is that where things went wrong for Pohong, for you?
Yeah, it happens from time to time, doesn't it? And we saw them come straight out of the blocks, scoring after 16 seconds, was it? With that fantastic goal, and the atmosphere looked incredible. And it has to make a difference. I thought Pohang did themselves proud, and it'll be we don't see atmospheres like that, especially in the last few years in the K League very often, and it would have been a great experience for them. They've got plenty of young players in that side, and I thought they did themselves proud. But back to your question, 50,000 people in attendance. I mean, that's bound to have an influence on the game, and you saw that straight from the kickoff.
Yeah, almost straight from the kickoff. 16 seconds, like you say, the fastest goal in ACL Final history. And it was always going to be a mountain for Pohang to climb, but that was a massive mountain for them to climb, going down 1-0 on the road that quickly. Matthew, and there have been postmortems galore, and we're not going to spend a ton of time on it this week. But what was one of your main takeaways from this?
I think the main takeaway I've got is more of a concluding takeaway of Pohang as a team this season, and that is, if they want to get to that next level, POSCO are going to have to find the money from somewhere. We've talked earlier this season with the sale of Jeonbuk, how much in debt they are, how the financial difficulties that the club is currently going through, and to have made that final was a fantastic achievement. I think if Ulsan or Jeonbuk had been there, it probably would have been a different story. I think Ulsan or Jeonbuk might have actually been able to. They would have had the experience to kind of take their time, even if they had conceded that early goal, which, in all fairness to Pohang, I don't think anybody expected that ball to go in. It was a fantastic shot, and they needed time to regroup. They did get better, and Pete's right. They did do themselves credit, but I think if you had a more experienced side in there, or a side with more experienced heads, with international caps and things, they would have been able to just say, well, slow down here. Let's pass it about a bit. It's 1-0, but there's plenty of the game left to be playing. I felt that Pohang were rushing a bit, and going back to the atmosphere as well. Yeah, we were watching it on TV, but you could feel like it felt like the tempo was increasing because of the atmosphere. Everything end to end, rushed chances, clearances not going anywhere, or missed tackles, and it was exciting to watch. Great, but you kind of needed, at that point, you needed a team to just kind of kill it. You needed to kill that atmosphere. And I don't think Pohang did. They let it stay too lively. Great for the neutral. I think Pohang, they lack the experience. They really need to sign some players they've got Shin Jin Ho. That was a great acquisition for them at the beginning of this season. They need more players.
He hit the bar in this one as well. So he got very close to equalizing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Like I said, Pohang, they did really well to get that. I'm glad they made the final. Not glad they made the final. I'm glad they made the final instead of Ulsan, I should say. But they genuinely, fair play to them, but they are quite a way off playing at that level. And at the moment, they could finish really, really low in K League 1 and to have been at the Champions League final as well only a week ago is unfathomable. But they need more experience there. They need depth, and they need POSCO to somehow find money from somewhere. They'll have the Song Min Kyu money that they've got from Jeonbuk. They'll be able to. They have promised that Kim Ki-dong can spend that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they will or not, we'll see. But hopefully, this cup run has convinced their backers that they need to find money from somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you've led into what honestly is my overall takeaway of this is that if the 7th best team in K League, which is where Pohang is right now, if the 7th best team without their top scorer of the tournament and without their first choice starting goalkeeper can go to Saudi Arabia and only lose 2-0, well done, boys. I mean, that's a hell of a performance, and again, hit the bar, almost equalized there. And look, if Kang Hyun Moo's in net, I'm not convinced that second goal goes in. Lee Jun, he was outstanding against Nagoya, but it's like you were saying, he doesn't necessarily have that experience. And that second goal, I don't think Kang Hyun Moo lets that one in. And this is where it comes down to not really having the depth and not really having the players. And I think Pohang were really thrust into this spot unexpectedly, even for them in a lot of ways, because this club wasn't built for this platform this year. They just overachieved in really grand fashion, and good on them for doing it. And again, if the 7th best team in K League is only losing this match 2-0 in a different time zone with everything stacked against them, I'm not upset about this. And also, small thing, they made $2 million doing this. Pohang could have lost 5-0 and they'd have been fine, because they just made a nice chunk of change, really got their fan base behind them in a year that they desperately needed to get their fan base behind them, because when Song Min Kyu was sold, the Pohang faithful were very upset, and very rightfully so, because this is just 1 year after Ilyachenko and Polasevich were sold. So not even a year after. That was this winter, So they needed something to galvanize the fan base. They got that. They desperately need money. They got that. They also needed some respect within the league. I don't know how this tournament doesn't do that for them. So in a lot of ways, this is still a win for Pohang, in my eyes, in a lot of ways. And in all of that, congratulations to Al Hilal. They are unquestionably the winningest team in Asian footballing history as of right now. And again, credit to them. They went out there, they got the job done. Could have been more convincing, in my opinion, but they did get the job done, and they've been solid since the knockout stage. Anyway, the group stage wasn't that convincing from them, but props where it's due. Yeah, you look like you had something.
I just think for Pohang, the quality of their final ball wasn't there, and especially that early goal allowed them to sit back, and Pohang couldn't go on the counter attack. Players like Palacios and Go Young Jun couldn't get on the counter attack. They put 12 balls into the box, Pohang, but only 2 of them found the target. And it won't be a surprise to you that both of those were from Kang Sang-woo. In terms of touches in the box as well, Pohang's highest player of touches in the box was Kwon Won-kyu, the defender, and he only had 3 inside the box. If you compare that to Gomez for them, then he had 8 in the penalty area. So you can see, quality out wide was perhaps a problem for them.
Yeah, I've also put down, I didn't think they did enough with the set pieces that they did get as well.
Oh, yeah.
They really should have been making use of those few chances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that's where you're going to need that difference maker, like, I don't know, an Ilyachenko, for example, that can make sure that those things are headed home when needed. But, Yeah, a lot of this also was that the game plan went out the window before you could even blink. You know, in the pre-match, we were talking about how if they could keep Hilal scoreless late, then the crowd would almost be working against Hilal in that way. And in the end, Pohang ended up with more possession in this match because, Pete, like you were saying, Hilal gets that early lead, and they're just like, all right, what do you got? We can sit back and defend at home. We're fine. And that didn't allow Pohang to play the game that I think they were expecting to play, which was much more counterattacking based. And so it threw everything off. They're in a strikerless system because Lee Sung-mo wasn't able to leave the country. And yeah, but it was still there. It was still there. They still had their chances. And Matthew, like you said, I think had they finished them, at least one of them, we're looking at a very different game. So in the end, I'm going to say props to them.
I did speak to one of their backroom staff on the build up to it, Jeonnam, who I met in 2014, just randomly outside the ground. And he seemed confident going there, but I haven't spoken to him after for any like fallout from it. I thought I'd let him cool off and maybe we can speak to him over the winter when it's a bit quiet on interviews.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear what that whole experience was like for them, but we'll put a pin in it for now and we'll come back and we'll talk about ACL again. We do have something in the mailbag. I did see we had a question come in. Now we'll get to that in the mailbag as well, but we do have a little bit more ACL talk in the mailbag, but we're going to come back. We're going to focus on things domestically, and we're going to talk about the FA Cup right after this quick break. We'll be right back.
FNR is a revolutionary football-dedicated digital platform, the first of its kind in Australia. It provides a 24/7 live online radio platform experience, podcast hub, and acts as a content provider for TV, radio, and digital. Having reached millions of listeners and football fans since launching, FNR is accessible worldwide via its website or app, providing a platform to discuss, debate, and celebrate the world game. We are your voice of football, FNR Football Nation Radio.
Welcome back to the K League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, joined by Pete Hampshire and Matthew Binns. I should say Pete Hampshire while we have him. Traitor. No, I'm fine. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it, Pete. I'm happy for you. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Speaking of things that I'm very happy about, let's talk about the Jeonnam Dragons in the FA Cup final. I will say this was my first time being a fan in the stand since Melbourne Victory came up here to play FC Seoul in the 2020 AFC Champions League in February of 2020. Oh, was it nice. It was absolutely fantastic to be back in the stands again for the first time as a fan in almost 2 full years. Chicken was flowing, beer was flowing. The goals were not flowing. The Dragons ended up losing this one 1-0 on a penalty. And I have my takeaways, but I'll temper myself a little bit. And Pete, what was your main takeaway from this match?
Well, while I was watching it, I was surprised how attacking Jeonnam lined up with the 3 forwards. I mean, they put all their attacking might out. I thought with their fantastic away record, they might try and save themselves for the second leg, but they clearly went for it down in Gwangyang. I'm sure you had some Gwangyang bulgogi on the night. I'd be disappointed if you didn't.
Then you are disappointed. Sorry.
Yeah, I expected a really cagey game, and it obviously wasn't all-out attack, but it was less cagey than I expected. And Kim Tae-hyun will be disappointed with how he dived in to concede the penalty, because it was a proper dive in. It was a stonewaller, I think.
Yeah, I thought that he had a decent angle on him. There was no need. He didn't have to dive in there either. The keeper was in position and he was shielding him from the far side of the net there. It was just panic, you know, and much like we were talking about with Pohong needing some cooler heads in a big moment. I think that's where Jeonnam were lacking, certainly in defense there, because that was just a panic dive. Like, I mean, a deserved card, a deserved pen. I'm not even like, there's no arguing it. Nobody in the stands was arguing at the time. Everybody just hung their head and was like, what are you doing? It was just a panic play. And then it leads to one of the things that I do want to bring up in this. What's Bruno Lamas on about? Why are you taunting the Dragons fans? What'd we do to you? What?
Well, I think on the night they managed to control Cezinha really well, but then Daegu have found the magic. Finally, they found the 4th decent foreigner for Daegu, which has been a while coming. And yeah, Lamas did you in the end. Yeah.
Matthew, takeaways?
Actually, it's one of hope for Jeonnam. I actually think I think Daegu are incredibly wasteful. I really think that they should have put this to bed because they really can't rely on. It's not a guarantee that they're going to win the second leg. Jeonnam notoriously better away from home, and yeah, just watching them at the weekend. I watched them at the weekend versus John, but we are going to touch on the final A recap. But it kind of ties into this, and they are creating chances, Daegu, but they constantly can't convert. And as I look at the stats, and yeah, we've somehow leaned on expected goals a bit too much sometimes this season. But
You have.
Daegu well, it's a good measure, I feel, but Daegu have the biggest discrepancy between expected goals and actual goals, and that is it's in the wrong direction. They should have 11 more goals than they've actually scored in the league this season. And Cecina, if we were going by expected assists, he would lead the league in assists. But there is nobody getting on the end of the balls he's putting in. Now, yeah, sure, Edgar, great striker, but there's still chances being missed, really scoreable opportunities. And watching the highlights from that game, Daegu only converted a penalty. They couldn't find a way past Jeonnam. I watched them against Jeonbuk. They had quite a few chances to score before Jeonbuk took the lead, and they didn't take them. And I think that it's not a given that they're going to win the FA Cup, so they're going to really have to play as well this weekend, which we're going to get onto. But Daegu, yeah, there's hope for Jeonnam if they can keep Daegu at bay and play as they do normally away from home, perhaps play on the counter a bit. I know Daegu don't have to come forward too much, but I'm sure Jeonnam can possibly get something out of this, or make a match of it at least, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think the away goal could come back to haunt Jeonnam quite a bit, but like you're saying, I think the takeaway in a lot of ways, I mean, Jeonnam always wanted to set up, well, they usually want to set up defensively. Like I say, I did like the three forwards coming out in this one. With Balotelli, Lee Jong-ho, and Samuel Nemani finally getting some minutes there. And it was a little bit disappointing from Nemani just because he did well defensively and he did well tracking back, but he just looked like he was getting caught up in his own feet pretty often moving forward and ended up getting subbed out. And I thought Park Hee-sung did pretty well when he came in, but it was difficult for him to kind of be a wide player. And with Jeonnam going forward, it seemed like everything was just Oleg and Balotelli, just get everything over to that left side. And when we're sitting in the stands and we can see that, and I was sitting behind the goal for most of the game, when you can see it from there, the opposing defense is seeing it. And all they really had to do was just double team Balotelli, and nothing was coming of it. But much in the same way we were talking about Pohong earlier, the Dragons did manage to get a couple of good quality chances in this one, and Lee Jong-ho is going to be kicking himself here because he had a couple of good looks in the box and wasn't able to convert. And the main takeaway in all of this for me, I mean, yes, the Dragons are a goal down, but they never looked anywhere near outclassed in this game. I thought that they bossed the game for more stretches than Daegu did, to be honest, and that's at home where the Dragons don't usually play as well. So yeah, like you're saying, I think there's a lot of hope for Jeonnam going into the second leg because they play better with their backs up against the wall away from home. And they certainly proved in that first leg that they're not scared. They've already beat Pohong and Ulsan in this tournament, and Daegu is yet to score from open play, despite, I think it was Edgar that had one that he blasted over the bar. Should have done much better on that, but that goes into what you were saying, Matthew, about them wasting the chances that they are creating. And they did get a few, but again, on the night, I really thought the Dragons did much better creating chances. I thought that they controlled the game pretty well. It was just in that final third where it's been all season where things just kind of fall apart. And that was where things kind of fell apart again. And if Balotelli wasn't doing it, then nobody was doing it. And unfortunately, that's how it went. But they're going to need to get something early in this second leg, which we'll talk about a little bit more next week. But we'll see. I'm not too worried about it. But Pete, what do you think? Is this away goal too much for the Dragons to overcome?
Well, I think from a Daegu perspective, it showed where Lee Byung-gun's priorities lie, because they're obviously third in the league, a point above Jeju, and third, you can qualify for Champions League, but you can also qualify through the FA Cup. So there's some debate over, which way is he going to go. He rested Cecina, Jong Tae-uk, and Edgar in the league game before, all on the bench, and then played his strongest 11 for this one. So I think, obviously, the league campaign will be finished by the time it's the second leg. So he'll be playing his strongest team again, and it's always a great atmosphere at Daegu. I think if I was I'd back Daegu again. I've already seen him lift one FA Cup. Unfortunately, I can't go to this one, but yeah, I'd back
Hopefully it'll
Daegu.
be warmer for this one, because that FA Cup that we went to in 2018 was real cold.
That was one of my highlights of watching the K League in the last few years. It was a brilliant day out, but I remember looking around the stadium for the patches of sunshine, trying to find one place we're not going to freeze.
Moved from the lower bowl west stand up to the east stand in the sun as the sun was setting, and just holding out all extremities, trying to get as much sunlight as possible.
Gave ourselves a much worse view, but at least we could feel our bodies. Yeah,
it was well worth it. It was well worth it. And hopefully this year I won't have to do the same in Daegu's new stadium, and I will hopefully be celebrating with some in-stadium samgyeopsal, wearing the hoodie that I'm wearing right now for those watching live, my new Jeonnam Dragons hoodie. But yeah, overall, I really think the Dragons have got a great chance in this second leg, and I haven't seen much from Daegu in general in the past couple of games to really make me think otherwise. But we will take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk more domestic things. We're going to start in Final B, and then we'll move on to Final A, where Daegu are. But we will be right back.
Fans, we want to hear from you. You're encouraged to email KLU at info@kleagueunited.com or tweet at KLeagueUnited with any questions, comments, or reactions. Or follow us on Facebook to ask directly during one of our live shows.
Welcome back to the K League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, joined by the guys that were just here a couple of minutes ago. You know who it is. You know who it is. All right, gents, let's talk about K League 1 Final B. Hopefully next year we can get a different name for that. But I'll just go through the results really quickly, and we don't need to spend a lot of time talking about what's going to happen this weekend because of the results from last weekend, which have everything sorted. And the main one there, because there are a lot of 0-0 games in K League over the weekend, so luckily we're heading into the final round and got something to talk about. Two of those games did finish 0-0, and that was Incheon and Pohong, and Seoul and Gangwon. The interesting one there is that Gangwon finished 0-0, and boy, they really needed a goal in that one, and they didn't really go for it. And when I mean they didn't really go for it, I mean brand new manager Chae Young-soo subbed on an attacker and then subbed him off because it wasn't defending well. So now they're in 11th place guaranteed, and they have to play in the promotion relegation playoff because they couldn't get a goal past FC Seoul. So that's an interesting one. Matthew, what did you make of that match?
Yeah, it was I wasn't 100% sure what Chae Young-soo was going for then. I guess perhaps stop the rot may have been first and foremost in his mind. I mean, it's not getting directly relegated, which is what they could have been up against if they had lost. So in that way, there is still a positive, but you'd think 1 point doesn't really help them now. They are in the promotion relegation playoff. I guess you could consider the match against Songnam next week a practice match, a warm-up match for that Daejeon game. They have got an extra game as well, which Daejeon don't have. Daejeon currently haven't got all that time. So, but I don't think that's what he was aiming for. I think he was aiming for the win. I genuinely think he was probably hoping to catch Seoul on the counter, but he didn't seem to realize Seoul didn't need to win to stay up. So
right, which FC Seoul completely understood, and they're sitting comfortable right now on 44 points along with Songnam FC. They're safe. Seoul could slip down to 10th. I don't think they really care because they are 4 points clear of Gangwon because of that draw. And yeah, had Gangwon got the win there, then even if Songnam wins, they're 2 points behind them going into a head-to-head matchup on the final day. That's tasty. That's delightful. Let's do that. But instead, it's a 0-0, and it just, weird one from Gangwon there. But maybe they just wanted to know their fate, and maybe they're ready to face Daejeon. But I think of the teams that Daejeon could have got in this one, and Paul's talked about this before, and he'll talk about it more in the actual preview. Gwangju didn't get up there to get it done and find form. Gangwon, even if they win on the last day, I think this is the team that Daejeon will want to be playing just because of where they are with things right now. So going to be an interesting one. Two teams that have both been in K League 1 and K League 2. So I'll leave that one to Paul. Let's talk about the other result there that's very noteworthy. from round 37, and that is Jeonnam FC getting a 1-0 win over Gwangju FC, and that result both guaranteed Jeonnam safety and Pete Hampshire's Gwangju FC relegation. So, Pete, what went wrong in that match, and what went wrong this season for Gwangju?
Yeah, I watched that game at my parents-in-law's house. Demanded it was put on the telly.
You keep spinning that yarn, buddy. You keep spinning that. Yeah,
as you should do when it comes to the final days of the season. And then, unfortunately, watched the Gangwon game, which I don't think Gwangju fans are very happy with. They wanted an open game with a chance where they can catch Gangwon, and you're watching Im Chang-woo take the Gangwon wing back taking ages over a throw-in in stoppage time. It was a bizarre weekend in that sense for Gwangju this season. The last 5 games, they only got 1 point from the last 5 home games, and all this year they've looked like they could beat anyone at home, apart from that. Basically, the post-split fixtures where the last 5 home games started off with Jeju at home, which was the substitute debacle. And I think that knocked all the confidence out of them. They'd fought so hard to get a point in that, and then to forfeit the game and lose 3-0 effectively. I think it knocked the stuffing out of them, to be honest. Before that game, they had got 11 points from a possible 15 in their 5 games prior. And then they just picked up 1 in their last 5 home games. So I think that you can't underestimate the effect of that. Also, this season as a whole, the failed signing of Jonathan. I mean, he seems like a popular lad in the team, but he's only played 70 minutes across the whole season. And we've only got Ho Yul as a recognised striker who's 19/20 years old. It's never going to work. That front line of Gwangju, it's full of energy, but you've got a 19-year-old Om Ji-sung who's full of potential, and then Om Won-sang, who's another under 22, and just zero experience up front. And then to top all that off, especially towards the end of the season, they just had a propensity they're just shipping late goals every week. It seemed like, even if we're 3-2 up against Seoul, as someone at the 94th minute just commented there, you just know that a late goal is coming. And you could feel it around the stadium as well, not even just watching on TV. You could feel the nerves coming as soon as the last 20 minutes came around.
Yeah, that match against Seoul, I think, kind of cemented both teams' spots this season. I mean, for Seoul, that was the catalyst to get them on and avoid relegation. And for Gwangju, at that point, you kind of knew. You just kind of knew what was coming. But look, K2's the party. Welcome back, Gwangju. We've missed you. Welcome back.
Well, looking ahead to next year, I think they'll find it more of a struggle than they did last time they went down, for sure.
Oh, indeed.
It looks a really strong league already for next year, and they'll lose the key players up top. I mean, I'm guessing Ho Yul will stay, but apart from that, they really need to make some shrewd signings over the winter.
Yeah, indeed. And that does lead into, we're going to talk about the final round of fixtures here, but really, I mean, we got Pohong, Seoul, Gangwon, Seonnam, which again was going to be massive. That was going to be a really big one. And Gwangju are hosting Incheon. There's nothing on the line for any of these teams. Gwangju can't catch Gangwon. Gangwon can't escape 11th. So, I mean, if you're Gangwon, yes, this is a practice match, like you were saying, Matthew, to get ready for Daejeon. But is that the only thing we're looking for this weekend? What are you keeping an eye on in Final B this weekend?
Morbid curiosity. No, it's grim, isn't it? It's proper grim. I guess Gangwon. You're watching Gangwon to see what Chae Young-soo might be planning for that promotion relegation playoff, because it'll be his second match in charge. We'll finally get more of an idea of his kind of tactics, the players he trusts from that game that got in the 0-0. So I guess that's where my eyes would turn to, just so we can get a feel for what might happen there.
Yeah. Well,
now the place to be this weekend is still Gwangju, where I'm heading on Saturday, because Ryan sent me down a couple of the full kits, full Gwangju kits. So I'll be handing out a couple of those to people outside the stadium. I've got no idea who I'm going to give them to. I'm just going to try and catch people's eye with a cardboard box and some Gwangju kits and see what happens. Try and get a photo.
Outstanding. Yeah. What a way to end the year. Some weird foreigner, some tall foreigner walking up to him and handing him clothes out of a box. That's what the people of Gwangju need to end this season on a high. So thank you for your service there, Pete. Let's move on to other teams hoping to end their season on a high. Let's talk about Final A real quick here. And again, let's talk about the results of the weekend first. And the one that didn't necessarily have a massive impact on the title race, but may have something to do with the ACL places, was Jeju United getting a 1-0 win over Suwon FC. That definitely cemented Suwon will not be in contention for Champions League next year, but for them to even be in contention this late in the season is a tremendous, tremendous year for them. Anything on this one from you guys before we move on to the juicy results? Anything from Jeju?
I mean, just mainly like Chu Min-kyu pretty much marked out the game until he wasn't. Really,
right? Yeah.
Last minute, and just he stepped back from his defender and just free header, just knocked it in, calm as you like. They did have a goal disallowed. Jeju, what I am interested in seeing, the goal disallowed was for Jose Fernandez. It was a breakaway goal, and he got the ball edge of the box, turned, finished, lovely finish, but VAR called it back for a foul further up the pitch. But I feel that Jose Fernandez, he could be a key factor for the weekend ahead, but we're going to talk about him in a little bit when we preview.
In just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And leading into that, let's move into Ulsaning, because I want to end this one on somebody in this group being happy. So talking about Jeonbuk winning will make Matthew happy. Suwon Samsung Blue Wings hosted Ulsan Hyundai, and what was essentially a must-win for Ulsan. And they didn't even score a goal. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but Ulsan is falling at the final hurdle yet again in league play, very similar to last year, where they are heading into the final match day. They're 2 points behind Jeonbuk, so a win plus a Jeonbuk loss. They're in good shape. But my goodness, how do they keep doing this every year?
This one really confused me a little bit because, for starters, Suwon haven't got anything to play for. So all credit to Suwon.
Correct.
Masters of tomfoolery, the fans. They love to cause havoc, and clearly they've enjoyed stopping Ulsan here. But it didn't make sense for me. They got a penalty in the 18th minute, Ulsan, and they put up Lee Dong-kyung to take it. Now, I've had a look through Lee Dong-kyung's scoring history before coming on here. He has never taken a penalty, nor in a penalty shootout. Now, normally it's Vako who takes the penalties for Ulsan. He wasn't on the pitch at this point. Lee Chung-young was on the pitch, who's taken penalties before. Lee Dong-jun was on the pitch, who's taken penalties this season. They go for the non-recognised penalty taker to take the penalty, and all credit to No Dong-gun for going the right way. I'm not sure what research he had done to guess which way Lee Dong-kyung was going, but he saved it. Suwon did get a goal themselves, but that was ruled out for offside, rightly so. And Ulsan did get a goal. Now, this is where the controversy is. It was debatable. It was offside. Lee Dong-jun scored, header, offside. It was tight. I'm going to say it was offside because I am, but it was tight. It was very, very tight. I think a lot of people would say it wasn't. Put the lines down. Perhaps you find it's a fraction off. But the thing is, it shouldn't really come down to that. They had a penalty before, and they had other chances in the match, but they just couldn't do it. And Suwon had chances themselves. Again, nothing to play for. Kim Gun-hee, he missed a sitter. Well, he out-tricked himself and managed to lose the ball when he's through on goal, basically, just to keep it to beat. And then second half, he gets a free header from a corner and heads it over. So Suwon had chances as well in this. And I'd be concerned if I was an Ulsan fan, because it does look like it's happening again, doesn't it?
Looks like.
Well, yeah. It's not over yet.
Okay.
No, it's not over yet.
Okay. Sure. That leads into the result that's setting things up where Thanos is back yet again, ladies and gentlemen. Daegu FC could not score at home. Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors had no trouble scoring in Daegu. They got 2 goals in this one. They won 2-0. They are in the driver's seat heading into the final round. Pete, why don't you talk about this one? Because I can't handle the smug?
Well, Hong Jong-ho was at it again, wasn't he? And I know he's going to be high on people's list for these awards that we've got coming up in the KLU in the next few weeks. And
That's right.
I actually didn't see this game because I was having a Chinese with my father-in-law. So fantastic for choosing me for this one.
Okay, fine. Matthew,
I did.
go on.
Okay, it was quite an end-to-end game for the first half. Kim Sang-shik, he chose his usual formation. It came out shaped like a Christmas tree, so clearly getting into the festive spirit.
That's
I
right.
don't know why he had moved the wingers so far inside. It wasn't that Christmassy though, because he did take his youngster off after 8 minutes. Kim Sang-shik removing Lee Sung-yun for Song Min-kyu, which is quite frankly disgraceful, to be honest. But that's been a flaw with Kim Sang-shik all season. But moving on to the rest of the match, Daegu had chances to take this, but it was Jeonbuk who finally got the lead. Corner in, Hong Jong-ho controlling it, turning and scoring. There was VAR review potential of handball, but it was, well, yeah, it wasn't. So good goal. And then the second goal, Gustavo, he had quite the game. I think the whole game, if you watch the highlights, it just seems to be one simple move on repeat. Young down the right, bags of space. Nobody ever seemed to be marking him. I don't know why, but he just bags of space, pings it in, Gustavo onto it. And he did it like 4 or 5 times. It's just, the highlights just seem to keep on loop. But yeah, Gustavo, anyway, for the second goal, he was all the way back in the Jeonbuk penalty area, managed to kick it up the pitch, and then it was played through onto Min Son-min, who did well to beat the defender and chip it over the goalkeeper to, well, put Jeonbuk in prime position for the weekend.
You weren't going to go for the driver's seat pun there?
No, too obvious.
I took it. I don't care. Yes, they are in the driver's seat heading into the final round, and they will be facing JJ United at home, a match that Pete Hampshire will be at in person, and Matthew won't be going there because, well, there's a hell of a commentary team on this one on tv.kleague.com. Matthew Binns making his color commentary debut alongside Paul Neat. How are you feeling ahead of this one?
Terrified, not just because of the match itself. I'm sure people who are watching and listening to this podcast are thinking, why have they got me on it? And I'm still asking myself.
You stop.
But no, it's I didn't want this to happen. I wanted it to be done. I wanted the race to be done.
Oh, okay.
I knew when Jeonbuk beat Ulsan, and I was thinking, all we're going to do is beat Suwon FC. Then the title's pretty, it's good. Well, if it could be 3 points clear going into the final day, nice. And then me and Paul could perhaps have a bit of a chat, bit of banter back and forth. Instead, it's going to be Paul doing his best and me sitting there rocking back and forth and somehow the odd yelp. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But
tune in for that one, folks.
Yeah, for the match itself, it's going to be an interesting one because Jeonbuk have not beaten Jeju this season. It's been 3 draws, and I'm not 100% sure that this one could go in Jeonbuk's favour either. Jeonbuk only need a draw really to win the title. There is a caveat: Ulsan do have to score 8 goals without Jeonbuk finding the net. So. Well, then hopefully Daegu don't have a collapse. But yeah, Jeonbuk probably need a draw to win this. To win this title. I think Jeonbuk's biggest concern, though, is in the game against Daegu, both Ryu Jae-min and Kim Jin-soo saw their 5th yellow cards of the season and will not be available for this weekend. So Jeonbuk will be playing a makeshift left back, probably Chae Chul-sun for his experience. They can play Lee Ho-yeon there. They have done it before, but it'll be Chae Chul-sun on the left. I think
Sasalak not there?
Sasalak is injured. He won't be playing this weekend. Then they've also got Kim Min-hyuk. He's injured, so that's why Koo Jae-rong has been playing at centre back. And Koo Jae-rong, he's easily bullied off the ball. He's a good defender, but as we saw against Suwon FC, Lars Veldwick just managed to just bully him off the ball to get that second goal and give Jeonbuk a bit of a mountain to climb against Suwon FC. But so we've got that kind of weakness in defence. There is only one recognised defensive midfielder in the side. That's Paek Sung-ho, which is a bit of a concern considering some of the attacking talents that Jeju have. One I was picking out earlier was Jerso Fernandez. I think I don't think he's a very pacey striker. He likes to sit between the lines, and Jeju tend to play a ball over the top, and his pace, he just runs straight through the defense usually to get to it. So I think that's if Kujerong is not on the ball there, that could cause concern. I reckon Hong Jong-ho will be man marking Ju Min-kyu for all of it, following to the bathroom and everything. He won't get a look in, but that's really where the main issue could be for Jeonbuk there, especially down Jeonbuk's left side, down Jeju's right flank. So An Hyun-bom, who's likely to be playing down that right for Jeju, he could also get some joy. Well, okay, midfield, but he's a defender come midfielder. So that's where I see it being an issue for Jeonbuk. I do think they probably can get the draw here. Jeju haven't got Lee Chang-min, or very unlikely to have Lee Chang-min for this game, who is a massive influence for them in terms of passing statistics. He's very high up in the passing statistics in the league. Without him in the team, Jeonbuk have a bit of a chance. I don't know why I'm touting Jeonbuk as underdogs when they're at home, but it's the fear.
To win their 20th title in a row.
5th. But yes.
Sorry.
It's that's the fear probably as a fan. I do think Jeonbuk probably will get the result they need.
Yeah, if I was a Jeonbuk fan, my biggest fear would be Gerso Fernandez. I think he's been brilliant in the last few weeks, and like Matthew just said, alongside Hong Jong-ho, there's always a worry who is alongside him. I think whoever it's been this season, that's whoever's been alongside Hong Jong-ho has been the weak point in the Jeonbuk side. And yeah, from a neutral point of view there on Saturday, it'd be quite nice for a Jeju early goal just to make it interesting.
Get in there, Pete.
And then I'll tune into Bins on the live stream and just listen to it.
I'm worried that like it hasn't been confirmed, but I'm imagining Paul and I might have to do the commentary after if there's a trophy lift or the post-match trophy, and if Jeju have won and Ulsan have won, and I'm having to sit there while Paul fills it up, and I just have to miserably fight back the tears to praise Kiel. Oh, it's going to be a nightmare. But yeah,
that's the stuff.
But yeah, it should be fun for neutrals, I'm sure, and yeah. We'll see.
Well, again, if you want to hear Matthew and Paul calling a game, tv.kleague.com is the place to watch this Sunday. And look, Jeonbuk could lose because Ulsan have to win. Ulsan are at home. They're going to be facing Daegu FC, and they have to win this game because of the position that they've put themselves in yet again for the 3rd straight year, or they're heading into the final match day, just kicking themselves for opportunities lost. And Pete, in this one, I did mention that they have to win, and that's because they're not going to score 8 goals. I wouldn't expect. But what do you see happening in this one?
Well, I know that Daegu also need a good result to consolidate 3rd position, but it's just natural for the cup final to be in the back of their players' minds. You don't want to be injured for a cup final, and I think Ulsan, if they could choose anyone in that top 6, perhaps it would be Daegu. I know that other teams don't have anything to play for in the Suwon sides, but I think it's just natural. You saw Lee Byung-gun rest players in the league game before the cup final last time out, and maybe he won't do it again, but I think that Daegu side could just be banking on Jeonbuk to do the job, and then that's it. They've earned 3rd position.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
there's also less pressure on Ulsan this weekend. I think all the pressure's on Jeonbuk. They can just go out and play freely.
Would we say that? I would say
there's a lot of pressure. They're behind. So there's no expectation on them to win it now. It's all on Jeonbuk.
This is a team that was very close to winning the treble, and now they are very close to winning nothing this year. It just Ulsan, man, they're just so close, and I thought that they had a chance.
And I'll take over. Ryan is suffering some technical difficulties there.
Now I'm back.
Oh.
Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, mate, you're back.
Oh, boy. Technical issues are fun. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah, you're back.
Cool. No, it's just I love it when my headphones cut out. This won't be in the podcast version for those of you watching live. So little treat for you. Anyway, Ulsan
I hope that doesn't happen on Sunday. Paul's mic cuts out. We're doomed.
Just make sure that Paul's mic is close to his mouth because he likes to keep that thing far away, and it affected the first game. As is being pointed out on Facebook by James right now, Daegu has beaten Ulsan twice this season, so I don't think that it's far from a gimme for Ulsan, and nothing is a gimme for them at this point of the season ever. A lot of questions need to be asked this offseason yet again of a team that's just so close that can't quite get over that final hurdle. But there's another match going on as well. That Suwon Derby is taking place with Suwon FC, the home team in Suwon World Cup Stadium. So that's a fun one where the Blue Wings faithful will be. Actually, I think the Suwon FC home end is technically the south end, so the Blue Wings fans will be able to be in their usual seats.
Yeah, that's it. That's what Suwon FC have been doing. They've been sitting in the south end and treating it like their homestand.
So, okay, that's sure. That match is also happening. Maybe Lars Veldvik will go nuts and score 5 or 6 goals and get the golden boot. Who knows? That'd be super fun. But those are the matches that are happening this weekend, with the main one, again, being Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors facing Jeju United, with Matthew Binns doing color commentary and in no way nervous whatsoever. But we'll talk about that and a whole lot more with a working microphone for me and headphones to match after we take a really quick break. We'll be right back.
G. Lewis is your neighborhood British bar and cafe located in the Old Giro district of Seoul. Decorated in old English antiques and furniture for a true homely feel, you can enjoy homemade scones, cakes and afternoon tea during the day, and traditional British favorites like beef stew, English ale, and a fine selection of wines at night. Available for private parties or simply an evening out, G. Lewis is sure to become your favorite neighborhood pub. Be sure to mention K League United at the bar during your visit, and you'll get 10% off your bill.
Welcome back to the K League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, joined by Pete Hampshire, and in the Ulji Luis mailbag, the dog's always there, by the way. The K League cat almost hopped up and got into the live stream just now. He's lurking. He's still here. Anyway, in the Ulji Luis mailbag, it's Matthew Binns.
First out the mailbag this week, it's Ben Griffiths on Twitter asking, of the possible champions, who do you think has had the better season? Ulsan and Jeonbuk both have overcome some decent-sized point gaps to the other this season, have similar records and pretty similar goals forward and goals against. Does one stand out as having had a better season?
For me, I would say Jeonbuk, because the one question of Ulsan pre-season was, can they hold their nerve? And it looks like the answer is unequivocally, you know the word I'm trying to say, unequivocally.
Keep going.
They can't. That's what I'm trying to say. They've not held the nerve, have they? And Jeonbuk's performances, we talked about it a lot in the podcast this year. They weren't the best at the start, but I think they have slowly improved. Whereas Ulsan seem to have gone the other way. So on the whole, if I had to plump for one, it'd be Jeonbuk.
Yeah, I don't think I can disagree with that. Even if Ulsan come back and win it, I think this was kind of a bouncing year for Jeonbuk in a lot of ways, and I don't think as much was expected of them as has been expected of Ulsan this season, especially with Ulsan winning ACL last year. So anything short of the title, unfortunately for Ulsan at this point, is a disappointment. And I think Jeonbuk has handled adversity a lot better than Ulsan has. So I would agree. I think it's Jeonbuk.
I don't know. Whoever wins the title probably has had a better season. But yeah, Jeonbuk, both teams are in transition. It's Jeonbuk obviously had a inexperienced manager at the helm. I'm not sure Ulsan needed to have the transition that they're having. I don't think Junior had to leave. I don't think they really had to have such the overhaul. Hong Yong-bo is an experienced manager, where Kim Sang-sik isn't. He's obviously got experience as an assistant manager under Chae Kang-hee and Jose Moraes. He's knows what it's like to be on a winning backroom staff as well as in a winning side. So you could argue that. I think Ulsan have probably established more longer term this season. I think the one thing we've learned from Jeonbuk is they've got a chasm, a widening chasm between their youth team and their senior team. And they're going to probably have to buy players back in the winter to cover that under 22 whole. So I think in terms of building, possibly Ulsan. I think in terms of just a season in isolation, probably Jeonbuk. That's my that's my neutral position.
Neutral, yes.
For commentary purposes.
Well,
Anyway,
when I went to that game earlier this season, was it 4-2 in Jeonbuk? I would have never have thought we'd have been talking like this, to be honest, because that night Ulsan were just dominating proceedings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and well, that's it. I mean, Jeonbuk always tend to grow into seasons as well. Like we talked about how Jeonbuk looked off form at the beginning of last season as well, and they didn't look great at the beginning of the Jose Moraes era, and they always tend to get better in the latter half of the season. They're part experience, part finding the way things are working and things. But yeah, this season I'd definitely say Jeonbuk, but Ulsan have been building, and they will be a threat again next year. But on the note of title contenders, Stead Badroff on Instagram stories, do you see Suwon Blue Wings or FC Seoul investing to compete for the title next year?
Is that an either or is that like, will either of these teams invest? Look, I thought Seoul was really close coming into this year. I think a few of us thought that, but I hope so for the sake of Ki Sung-young. I hope that they invest and they can get a striker. I don't think they're that far off, which is weird to say for a team that just escaped relegation with one match to go, or the relegation threat anyway. But I could see them investing before I could see Suwon Samsung investing. I think Suwon FC might invest a little bit more next year, given the season that they've had. But I think Suwon Samsung has been turning into more of a youth development and sell your players kind of club. They're, again, as we've said many times, they're Samsung in name only at this point, basically. So they've had to switch their approach, whereas FC Seoul have shown they're not afraid to splash cash. And I think if they do that and they get it right this winter, I really think they're just one or two players away from being in the top half and competing for ACL spots, if not the title outright. So I think they will spend.
Yeah, for the Blue Wings, if you get a number 9 to, I don't want to knock Gunny out, but if you get a number 9 and you've got Jung Sang Bin and Kwon Chang Hoon on either side, then that's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if they even need to invest that much. I think Seoul will invest because they seem to invest each of the last couple of years, and will fall into the trap again of putting them second or third in our predictions and then make ourselves look silly like we do every year.
None of us had him winning the title other than Paul.
Well, yeah, how dare you not, Kim Gunny? But yes, let's move on. Another final B team who will be looking to improve next season. We have American Magpie on Twitter. He's calling you out, Ryan. Ryan's stuck with his Songnam relegation prediction until as late as round 37. You're still going for it, Ryan. You're still predicting Songnam might go down.
It's still going to be them.
You know, you never know. They might have. Have we checked all the substitutions? There was the right number and everything. Okay. Since the split, what made the difference for Songnam, and what sealed Gangwon's fate?
Yeah, I think. Well, thanks for listening and keeping track of my predictions and what has and hasn't gone well there. But look, I think the difference for Songnam is that they do have a difference maker up top in Mulich, and he's been massive for them this entire season. And sure, he hasn't been able to get on the scoreboard necessarily as much as they would have liked post split, and by that I mean, at all. But in a lot of ways, I feel like Songnam has kind of become the new Incheon, right? Because Incheon have gone and they've finished comfortably this year. They're not even worrying about relegation this time around. Whereas Songnam last year escaped it on the final day of the season. And I think that has really played into things for them this year, that belief that they can do it. I thought it was knocked out of them when FC Seoul beat them 3-0. I really thought that was going to be too much for Songnam to overcome. But they went out and proved that they could shake it off that quickly. That was a draw and a loss for them. And I thought that's it. The momentum's done. They're not going to be able to get that back. But look, when you've got a solid goalkeeper, anything's going to be possible when the matches mean this much. And you just really got to tip your cap to Kim Young-kwan, who was with FC Seoul, or not with Seoul Eland, the other Seoul team. Sorry, Michael. With Seoul Eland for so long. And when Songnam picked him up, it was like, oh yeah, that could be a pretty good signing. He has been a rock for them. He's been absolutely massive. And when you've got that belief in the man between the sticks going forward, you know that one goal can win you a game. And that's what's been happening for them. So credit to him. I mean, that's what I think has happened. They've got key players at both ends of the field that they know they can rely on. And if they don't get it done, then somebody else might. So Mulic hasn't been able to get on the score sheet as much as he would like. Other players have stepped up, and they have that confidence because Glory, as he's known, has just been fantastic in net.
I do think the post-split, they've been helped a bit by how the fixtures panned out for them, because
good point.
So far, they've played 4 games post-split, and 3 of those have been at home. And yeah, obviously, they deserve to stay up. They deserve to be 10th. Fantastic defensive record of late. But I mean, that's a big help that they've had those home games straight off the bat into the split.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's move on to a team who might be competing amongst the Final B contenders next season, and that is, a question about Daejeon Hansitsun, and it's from, it spells although, but there's numbers chucked in there. Is Daejeon's new kit sponsor going to be Nike? I've not heard anything about this.
I saw Paul was tweeting about it a bit earlier that the Daejeon social media were teasing and a big announcement at 6 p.m. So I had another look back, and all I could see was something about some dodgy mascots. So I'm not sure, but Paul said the word on the street was it could potentially be a Nike sponsorship. But then I had a look back, and I don't think anything's been announced yet.
It'll be the first in K League in a while. I don't remember a Nike kit for a long time.
Well,
be a big one.
See what happens there. On the note of glorious kits, let's move to the Champions League. And we have a question in from J League Now on Twitter. Very demanding there of the J League, not later. Now. And no, thank you for listening. And initial thoughts on the upcoming changes to the Asian Champions League, referring to the foreign player rule and the calendar shift.
Just a brief explainer here for the folks that might not have been keeping up on the news from AFC recently. Currently, there's a 3+1 rule in place for foreign players, meaning 3 players from absolutely anywhere, 1 player that falls under the AFC quota. So they could have up to 4 players in the match day roster. That is set to change to either 4+2. So already we're getting 4 players from absolutely anywhere, which is great, plus 2 players from the AFC. Or it could even be 5+1 or 5+2. Personally, I think 4+2 or 5+2 would be nice. I like that. I like having. Well, I don't think there should be a limit on the amount of Asian players you can get in the AFC Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make sense to me. Limiting it to 2 even doesn't really make sense to me. But this is much better. And I don't think we're going to get a ton of K League clubs that are going to be taking advantage of that anyway. But that's going to be taking place in 2023. Next year, the 3+1 rule is being nixed and will just be whatever the domestic league's rule is. So that's what it's going to be for Champions League next year. And the calendar switch will be switching from what we know this year, where it starts very early in the K League season and then ends around the time of the K League season. So basically is running the spring to autumn that we're used to here in Korea anyway. And it's going to be switching and doing the opposite, and we'll be moving autumn to spring. So it's switching from August, September to April or May. So it's going to be interesting. So what are your thoughts on that one there, Pete? What do you think of the switcheroo?
Hey, you're educating me. It's the first I've heard about it. Live
Follow
reaction.
the news.
Yeah, been busy. What
are you moving?
So it's going through the winter. Do you mean?
Yeah. So basically, right now there's the big push for the group stage, which again for us is usually towards the beginning of the K League season, and then everything wraps up as it just did last week. that's going to be switching, and now it's going to be the group stages are going to be taking place in the autumn here in Korea, so August, September, and then it'll finish up in April or May. So it's going to be a complete reversal.
I mean, if it gives us something to fill those dry months, if it's more, I know we get the start of it in February in Korea. If it gives us more games to fill, then that'd be fantastic. But yeah.
Matthew, as a fan of a team that's regularly in this and will probably be wanting to compete for the title next year anyway, or is usually competing for the title, what do you think of this switch? And do you think, is this going to negatively affect K League clubs, I guess, is the big question, because, and that's the question coming in here as well, is that right now K League clubs kind of ramp up with this competition. I think the group stage is very difficult because it's still preseason, but, you know, Pohong's Pohong, but most teams would be towards the end of their season when everybody's had time to gel and everything's clicking. Is this going to be a big disadvantage to be going into the ACL final in April or May when they've only had maybe 2 months together as a team?
Yeah, I think it would be a disadvantage, to be honest, but I don't think the change can be argued much, really. Yes, I don't like it. I prefer the Champions League to run with the season, but not all members in this competition have been running on the same calendar as Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And as this competition is becoming more and more geared to the West in terms of, well, you saw the fans there in that Champions League final. The trophy currently resides in the West. They've got the finances out there in the Middle East. So you're thinking it makes sense, I guess, that they should probably be following their calendar, but it's not good news for the K League, I don't think, because, well, I mean, from a Jeonbuk perspective, they always take time. We already said they always take time to get going, and I think we'd find that with other clubs as well. K League teams, they do tend to have a considerable amount of transfers. A lot of players coming in and out in the winter, and they need time to bed. And in Korea as well, the winter's freezing, so you're going to be not much training. Training does happen, obviously, but they have to go to camps, usually down in Jeju or Goje, and to get some semi-decent weather. And yeah, so they're not going to be match fit, I don't think. And it's also going to kind of disrupt, if there are teams in it at that stage, then it's going to disrupt the season so early on as well. So I don't like it. I think it does put K League clubs at a disadvantage, but I can't argue against the calendar shift, I don't think.
I think it'll be nice. Hopefully, if we've got some K League teams in the semifinals and the finals, and we can get some home games back, it would be nice to be late in the competition in April and May and not freezing in November and December. But yeah, I think it'd be hard to argue that this isn't going to be a bit of a disadvantage for K League teams.
I've kind of got used to, maybe it's just been watching, because it doesn't make any sense really given the English Premier League calendar. But in my head, like, now I associate the cold with like trophies. I have a Pavlovian reaction to the cold, like, oh, something shiny's coming this way, isn't it? So yeah, so I don't like this. Well, not in Korea anyway. Don't mind it in England anyway.
I know we got one more in the mailbag, but there is one that came in the comments. If you wanna get to that one first.
Oh yeah, it's in from Mike Baston right at the start of the show. Actually, is there any weight to the rumors of Kim Sung-gyu returning to Korea from Kashiwa Reysol? I haven't been following this. I could recommend a podcast to which might have more idea of that. That would be the J Talk podcast. They might be better placed than us. But have you heard anything, Ryan or Peter?
I haven't heard anything concrete. I mean, there are certainly some K League One clubs that could benefit from having him in, but I don't know of any. I don't think any of the big spenders would really be splashing cash for his contract. You know, I mean, unless if Cho Yeon-woo's on the way out at Ulsan, then maybe he comes back and has another stint there. I don't know that the Ulsan fans really want him back after he literally threw away the title.
It'd be harsh, though. I mean, it was just one mistake for Ulsan. He was a great keeper.
Sure. Wasn't memorable at all.
No, I watch it daily.
Who remembers the goalkeeper literally throwing the ball to Pohong so they could seal the win? Nobody remembers that. Nobody remembers that. No, but Kim Sung-gyu he's an outstanding goalkeeper. I've got to imagine that there would be another J League team that would take a flyer on him as well. I don't know that he would want to come back from J League at this point. I'm not sure, but if he did, yeah, I don't know which of the big teams that could afford him would really be splashing out the cash for him.
You know, if they go in the Champions League again, then they've got a young, experienced keeper they could perhaps do with him.
That's a good point. Oh, please, Daegu, bring in any other keeper. Jae-Young-un he's a fine keeper, but good Lord, is that man difficult to listen to for 90 minutes. The Gwangyang fans, we were having some fun with him there.
Yeah.
It was really fun being in the stands and being able to maybe not be as polite as I am when I'm in the media, and we had fun.
Well, yeah, I haven't heard anything about those rumors, so we'll see. It could be an interesting move for his national team. Well, he's always in the national team.
Fine, so the national team, yeah.
Not really affecting him staying in the J League at present, so maybe personal preference. There is one last question in the mailbag. It's from Suwon FC fan on Twitter. If you had to vote for a K League player for the Ballon d'Or, who would you vote for?
Pete, I'm gonna let you go first.
Well, obviously Messi won the current one. He's ex-Barcelona, and a lady from Barcelona won the women's version as well. So it's got to be Pek Sung-ho, hasn't it? It's got to be the ex-Barcelona boy.
Okay, I mean they do. Look, Messi's outstanding. I don't know that he gets it over Lewandowski for me. Not that I get a vote in this one, but sure. Are you then saying? Is this saying that Pek Sung-ho is the Korean Messi? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, you're putting words in my mouth, but that free kick he took against Incheon was potentially goal of the season.
It's pretty good. Matthew, speaking of I'm putting words in Pete's mouth. Did he take them out of your mouth? Is that who you're going to say?
No, I was thinking that if a K League player is going to win it, it's probably by mistaken identity. So I'm probably going to go for the most Cristiano Ronaldo-like player in the K League, and that is Jonathan. Yes, all 70 minutes of his season this year, seeing him mistakenly walk home with the Ballon d'Or and probably keep one Scott Whitelock happy there. But yes. Or Cecina, obviously, for obvious reasons. He's a great player, of course, but that's boring. This is not a question to be serious, surely. But perhaps people in the comments might want to say who they would put forward from the K League for the Ballon d'Or. I'm sure there are a couple of decent options.
In spite of my better judgment and the fact that we're facing in the FA Cup final, I was going to say Cecina, just because I'm hoping that if he went to the award ceremony, he'd take Rico with him. It'd be great. I don't want to like Daegu. I hate them. I don't, though. And we did just have one last comment come in from Lex watching on YouTube right now, asking if that Champions League calendar, if that's going to start in 2022 with the World Cup also happening. No, it would be 2023 that switch will happen because the World Cup is in the fall next year. They're not going to mess with it. So next year, Champions League will kick off as usual in the late winter months here in Korea. So that will take place in 2023.
Okay. And well, that's it for the mailbag.
Excellent. And if folks had some other questions or wanted to get more involved, where can they do that, Matt?
They can do it in multiple locations, Ryan. They could go onto our Twitter, perhaps our YouTube, or over on Facebook or Instagram, all at K League United. And if they'd like to get even more involved, they can do so over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/K League United, where we have a number of features, including so rare features, K2 champion tiers, that's the $5 tier. You get the weekly team news, including injuries, suspensions, transfer rumors, and more. But if you opt for the K1 champion tier, that also includes predictions of the starting lineups. So get involved this week if you want to know what is happening in the final round of matches this weekend. Tiers start as low as $1, $3, and $5.
That's right. And this is the last weekend for that, as Matthew said. And if you want to listen to this podcast live and you're not doing so right now on social, then you can listen every Thursday on Football Nation Radio down in Australia. And I cannot recommend getting into the A leagues enough. It is absolutely fantastic. And Simon Hill is back on the mic for those as well. All sorts of good stuff going on down there in Australia. And if you subscribe to this podcast and leave us a review wherever you download your podcast, then you'll be entered into this month's K League kit contest. It's the last of the year now that we are into December. I'm tired of celebrating Daejeon, so we'll pick somebody else for that one. We'll put it up on social this week. I might have forgotten to do it before I made the rundown. What can you do? But anyway, for Matthew Binns and Pete Hampshire, I'm Ryan Walters. Thanks so much for watching.